The last game I want to be able to talk about is the follow-up to the CMON release. What I think is like one of the first Euros, if not the first Euro that CMON released, called Lorenzo Il Magnifico. This game I'm talking about is Coimbra. Coimbra was an Origins release last year, 2018, had its retail release shortly thereafter, but Coimbra is a Euro designed by Flaminia Brazzini and Regino Gigli, with the artist being Chris Quillams, which I like that. Chris Quillams, that's just that just is a great name. Just like it's very punctual. Chris Quillams.
I did not know that this was related to Lorenzo Il Magnifico.
Yeah, so Brazzini and Gigli are some of the primary designers on Lorenzo Il Magnifico. So this is kind of considered to be the follow-up. Whether it's considered the sequel or not, I don't really know. There's a lot of similarities, which I'll try to get into. But again, the artistry is done by Chris Quillams, which I think he has done a wonderful job in doing. And the publisher is Eggerspiel, which Eggerspiel is more of the higher end kind of complexity or Euros from the Plan B umbrella, which is interesting. So I think next move is like Plan B for Azul and Reef. And then Plan B has their own stuff. And then Eggerspiel is like that separate company, but
from like big dummies to big smarties.
Exactly. Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Yeah. You feel me. So, first and foremost, have you played Lorenzo?
I have. It's on my shelf right now. I've played it a couple times, but only at 2-player, and I don't really like how it works at 2-player. I think it would be fantastic at 4. It's also probably been at least a year since I've played it. So the answer to your question is yes.
Okay. So yeah. But it's been a while though.
It has.
So in order to kind of understand Coimbra and how it works, there's always going to be this association with Lorenzo because there is a lot of combination between the two, and there's a lot of thematic ties. So, for instance, first and foremost, let's talk about the thematic artistic ties that this game has. We're dealing with like I don't know whether it'd be 15th, 16th, 17th century, but we're dealing with a lot of old school. Old school is even a bad way of explaining it. I don't really know how to be able to explain it, but it deals a lot with kind of like old European
Renaissance era.
Thank you. That type of specific character art, that specific type of illustration, where in Lorenzo, what you're doing is you have like, I think it's Italian. Obviously, when I think about Lorenzo, I think it's going to be more Italian, but you have these different families that you can buy for their different unique abilities. And essentially you're hiring them, being able to execute them in this like engine building process, and scoring points that way. And
so would you say it's more Northern Italian Renaissance or Southern Italian Renaissance?
Oh my God, I have no idea.
I interrupted you for that, by the way. I hope you appreciate that.
I did.
Good.
You flagging?
I deserve that.
So Lorenzo does that. And then Coimbra is like the same type of idea in a way that it's like in Portugal, but instead of different families, it's specific sects. So you have like the religion, you have money, you have military, and you have like victory points, like in terms of like the different, I don't know, sets or things you can do in the game. So the main thing with these two games is dice rolling, right? You're using either like dice action selection to be able to pick and choose like how you want to be able to do the different types of actions in the game. So in speaking directly towards Coimbra, because again, I've played Lorenzo, it's been a really, really long time, but I'm just going to start talking about Coimbra because I just recently played it. What you do at the beginning of the game is you set up for we played 3 players, so we set up for 3 players, and you start off the game by having like these 4 different like phase cards. So there's phase 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you pick 2, and they are either purple, green, orange, or gray. And gray is military, green is points, orange is like the money, and then purple is like religion, or it's moving in this case, which we'll talk about here in a second. You pick these cards and you start off. That's how you start off the game. It's essentially the little jump start that you need to be able to get going. And then what you're going to do is there's like 3 rows of 4, which are different characters that do certain things that can kind of combo off each other. So you do that. You roll then a bunch of different dice. And these dice, there's one white die, there's like gray dice, orange dice, green dice, and purple dice. And you roll all these die, and starting with the first player, so it's kind of variable turn order, you pick one of these die, and you put it in this nice little 3D printed kind of like castle thing. And you place it in this track in terms of whether or not you want to bid on one of the cards, or whether or not you want to put it in this 1 through 6 track in which you can kind of pick a thing for free, which is like these instant abilities that give you stuff. And how the track works is that the person so like if you roll an orange 6 and you draft that die and you place it onto the board or the specific track that has all these different characters on it, that means that the highest die roll in that track gets to pick first. However, the face on that die also corresponds with how much of that specific like value that you so how much of that specific value you have to spend on that character. So this is I'm trying to sort this to make sure I explain this correctly. So there's 2 different types of like money in this game. There's military points and there's actual gold coins. And each of these different like families or these different sets that you're working with, green, purple, gray, and green or whatever, they all have like these people that do certain things for that specific category, and then they have either a gold or military icon on them. So if you draft an orange 6, that means that you have to pay 6 coin for one of those specific people that are there. So by drafting first, you spend more money, theoretically. But if you draft lower, you get the least pick, but you don't have to spend as much, which is like this interesting combination. And then the first row that you get, it goes the other way. So it goes 1 to 6. So if you draft a 1, you place it up there, then you have the ability to draft first out of like these 4 different tiles that like net you, additional monies and military points or within gold points, or can get you more crowns that put you up in the player position, because player position is tracked by the different crowns that you have at the beginning of a phase. And then you buy the things that you want to do, you go through that whole process, and then you go into the income phase. And the income phase is when you essentially execute on all the different types of dice that you did. So there's different tracks for getting points, military, coin, and movement. And if you drafted a 5 orange, that means that you would then gain coin based upon how much your specific token has moved up on that track. And it's all different thresholds. And you do that the same 3 different times. Are you following me so far?
Totally. I'm actually looking at a picture as you're explaining this.
Very good. Okay.
Sense. Yeah.
So I'm getting close, right? I'm like I'm a little bit more than halfway there. So it's pretty self-explanatory. If you draft a gray die, you get military points equal to where you're up on that track. How you move things up on that track is based upon the cards that you buy during the previous phase, where you're drafting dice and the highest value draft first and spends whatever type of card that you want to build. And then what ends up happening is that once you buy that character, it comes with like orange 3, and that means you can then move up the track 3 spaces for that orange track. So the more people you spend, the more farther up you get on that track. Okay, so like the thing is that these dice and cards, they do like they're very they're utilized for a lot of different things. So there's like a lot to unpack with all this type of stuff here, which I hope I'm doing an okay job at doing. Mm-hmm. But what's weird is that like after the first round, it all immediately clicks, and then you can kind of get into it, which is crazy, I know, based upon how I'm explaining this, but yeah. Anyways, so you do all of that, and then there's this aspect of the faith or the religion called moving. So in the middle of this map, there's like this in the middle of the game board, there's a map, and you start off in the middle, and there's all these different monasteries that exist that all have special unique abilities. And for you being able to invest in faith or religion, you're essentially visiting these different monasteries and putting a disc there. And when you do that, you essentially gain the unique or instant effect of that. So it's like, oh, you get to move up the purple track 3, or you get to move up the green track 3, or you score points equal to the amount of other monasteries you visited, or some other shape, other weird thing that goes. Okay? So you do all that. All right? That's not it. All right? There's more.
But wait, there's more.
The last thing that you end up doing, so anyways, in between all that, you find player score or player position. All right, that happens. That happens with crowns. All right, just forget about that. Not really important. The last thing that you have to do is you can then go on a voyage. I don't understand why you want to go on a voyage, but you can. You can spend gold to go on voyages, which is essentially betting that certain things, like if you're going to visit the different levels of monasteries that exist, you're going to get 2 points for each one of the different ones that you visited. Or you're going to just there's so many different voyages or endgame condition point values that you can do that will net you more points that you can spend on. Yeah. I think that's it. And then you do it again 3 more times. It's, it's like, best way I can explain this game is if Clank met Lorenzo. That's how I can explain this game. So if you like the exploring of Clank, but then you just want a ton of that dice action selection of Lorenzo, Coimbra's your game.
Have you played The Voyages of Marco Polo?
No, I've heard of it though.
Because it kind of reminds me of that a tiny bit as well, where there's dice rolling and going on voyages across a map. It's not exactly the same, but it does sound like it have elements of that as well, which I love. It's a fantastic game, and this looks amazing. This looks like a game that I could definitely get into a year ago. Now at this point in our life, in my house, I don't think we could take the time to play this kind of game.
Right
now with 3 players, how long did it take?
2 hours.
Okay, that's not.
And
is that after learning?
Yep. Yeah. So basically the game was set up when I arrived. We went through it in about 10-15 minutes. We went through our first round, and then we were like, oh, okay, this is how this works. I took off to a fairly explosive lead, and then one of the guys, John, just basically crushed us all.
Awesome.
It was he had 166 points, I had 107, and my friend Marshall had 78 points. Because essentially it got to the point where my friend John could essentially move throughout the whole map, and he was just doing laps around us and was essentially activating everything. So yeah.
Is this a game that you want to play again?
Yes, I do. I would love to play Coimbra again. I don't know if I would own it, just because I just don't think I would want to own it. I'm really glad I played it, but I don't think I'd own it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I love, honestly, the aesthetics are amazing. And so I saw this box originally at a game store, and it kind of looked like a Kwanchai Moria, just a tiny bit at first. I saw that, and it's not at all him, but it just looks really good.
Yeah, all the componentry is nice.
Actually, about that, the dice are in those little plastic castle things you put them in.
Mm-hmm.
Is that so when you move them around they don't roll accidentally, or what's the point of those?
No, so what ends up happening is when you draft a die, you have to put it in your own little 3D printed castle, because when it comes time to actually resolve that 1 through 6 or 6 through 1 type of resolution, you need to be able to know who drafted the orange 4, who drafted the green 2, right? And so that ends up coming back onto your player board, and then you end up taking them off when you start getting income, which is essentially executing and getting the different type of, resource that you get for that color.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so there's in terms of how a Carl Chuddick game would work, like in Red 7, where a one red just has this multitude of different things it can do. Coimbra does that same type of concept, but with dice, where the face of the die means something, the color of the die means something on different sorts of things, on levels that you need to pay attention to. It's one of those games that once you play it, you get it. And it's just going to be one of those where you need that second, third, fourth, fifth play in order to be okay, this is how I need to be able to start drafting because of where I'm at at the game at this time. But,
Yeah.
you know, this is kind of like a hard learning game that I think might put some people off and being like kind of exhausting, right? They're like, okay, fine. I finally got this. I finally was able to complete this. I didn't do too well. And it's going to be kind of a crapshoot to see whether or not people come back. But I know there was a lot of hype around in Origins about this game, and I think it is deserved. I think it's a great successor to Lorenzo. And if I were to have I owned Lorenzo and gave it up, but I'm pretty confident if I had to choose between one or the other, I would definitely go with Coimbra just because of the game. I think just the visuals itself is very pleasing. So
Lorenzo's also on my to sell shelf. So
peace out, Lorenzo.
Peace out, Lorenzo. Also, how good is Red 7?
Red 7's fantastic.
I loved that game. I haven't played it in a while. That was one of those games where I bought it for everyone for Christmas one year.
Oh, cool.
That was the Mind this year, by the way. I gave out like 4 or 5 copies of the Mind to family and friends. But yeah. Anyway, that's not the game we're talking about. But
the game, about that game. Yeah, the game that we are in fact talking about is Coimbra by Eggerspiel.
Eggerspiel. Awesome.